Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Live SEO Website Audits. I'm Itamar Blauer. I'm joined today with Paul Hogden, who's an absolute legend when it comes to all things, web design and things like that. So, I don't really want to introduce yourself. So, Paul, could you do that, I suppose, for yourself to get started?
Yeah, for sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, my name's Paul Hogden from Flock is the name of my business. We do specialize in web design, particularly design aspect, but really sort of trying to get ROI for people who have websites. I'm a big believer in the stuff that Itamar does, because for us, the web design is 50% of the struggle. The other 50% is actually driving people to actually see what it is that you've done and spent all of your time, effort, and money on. So, I think it's a really great combination, and looking forward to the next hour.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, especially with somebody who specializes in web design, how important SEO is within the web design process. And, you sometimes get people who they'll create a site, but they don't have that concept of SEO in mind. And then you think, well, you can design a site that looks really good, but if it's a bit slow, if it doesn't have enough functionality in terms of implementing really critical, SEO elements to the site, then you're going to have problems. So, it's great to have you here, and we've got loads of people in the chat already, which is great to see. We've got Fateh here. Good to see you. He's here pretty much every single week. We've got Andy. Andy, good to see you. Andy was on last week, which was a great session as well. We've got Aspect Wall Art here this afternoon as well. We've got Arthur from Digital Muscle on Twitter. Good to see you here, Arthur. And yeah, we've got, we'll get started, I suppose, quite quickly, because we did have a couple of sites in. Yeah, we're doing well, Arthur. Thanks a lot.
All good here.
Good to see you. And I suppose we can maybe we can wait a minute for more people to join in as well. Sure. So just to explain the way that the sessions work, and I'll put just the banners up there because the banners look really nice, I suppose. So the way it's going to work is, oh wait, what? Okay, here we go. So submit your websites on the live chat. So you'll have, the domain and then space. So like an actual, press the space bar key, and then whatever the TLD is. So com, co, space UK, whatever it may be. So that's how you submit it to the live chat. And then we're going to take a look and audit your sites. So that's how it's going to work. And just before we start as well, leave a like on this live stream if you enjoy this type of content, and make sure to subscribe to my channel as well. And also check out Paul and his company site as well. And I suppose on that note, we can pretty much get started. So let's have a look at what Fateh was saying. So he's got a site. Yeah. So this is uslocalbiz.org. And I think, Paul, I put that in the private chat there. So
uslocalbiz.org.
You could probably just copy the link in the private chat.
Oh, okay.
It might be easier, that first one that I put. But with this one, Fateh was mentioning that he wants thoughts on the design. So you say you finalized it. Content is dummy, website's not live yet. That's fine. So Paul, let me know when you're ready. We can get your screen up there and have a look.
Yeah, ready to go now. So I'm looking at it. It looks like it's in its infancy, as it were. I can see that we've got, if I just refresh the screen, we've got a nice little pop-in pop-up, which I presume is going to be where your hero image is going to be. And obviously, you're going to replace the lorem ipsum with something meaningful. My advice would be on that is make sure you've got what it is that you're about. And that's one of the key things for me that I get really, really passionate about, is that quite often people forget to put what it is that they actually do at the top of any website. So well done for putting the words professional cleaning services, because I guess that's what you're going to do. But also start to identify who your client is going to be. So, for busy professionals, who's it going to be? Is it for working mums? It would be great to kind of, niche that down so that when you turn up onto the website, people know immediately, right, this has got my name all over it, I'm in, you know. So that would be my first thoughts. If I take a scroll down, I've gone too far, hang on. Your reliable partner. Okay, there's going to be another hero there.
I think could you refresh that real quick, Paul? Because when I've got it up, I've got images that show up.
Okay.
So maybe, I don't know, maybe it hasn't loaded for you. But
no,
do you know what? Actually, do you mind if I share it on my screen and then you can just carry on? Because for some reason it's not showing up the images for you. But let me just show you.
Okay.
So that's how it is for me.
Oh right, okay. So the web browser that I was using was Safari.
Right.
So that might be something that might be useful to keep in mind, kind of moving forwards.
Mm-hmm.
You might need to do some more checking out on Safari to make sure that browser is compatible, because it is one of the three that people tend to use. So you wouldn't want to give somebody an experience like I had, where the hero image is missing, because I think having a nice image as you've got there is a crying shame to be missed. But all of the content on Safari, as far as graphical stuff, was missing. So just keep that in mind. But that certainly lifts it quite a lot from that perspective. Could you scroll down to the next section for me? Okay. So if at all possible, one of my big sort of bits of feedback for people who are designing websites, if you can find something that is your own image, would really lift that page, because I'm presuming that is a stock photo. It certainly looks like a stock photo, and it'd be really nice to see something that you've taken that's relevant to your business, even if it's a team picture. The thing is, as well, is it's time to start talking, I would suggest, about the people that you want to talk to, that you want to reach out to. So I would potentially be looking towards starting to build the pain up, starting to talk about, is your house always a pit? Do you struggle to find the time? And start to reel people in with, that's why we're here kind of thing. So I think this is a great opportunity to start reeling people in to your business, and start asking, almost start to qualify those people to your business, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, excellent. So then you're talking about some services, so that would be great. And if you think about it from what I've said as well previously, we were talking about building up the pain, and now you're talking about the solutions, which would work really well. So I would only talk about potentially changing that section before, and I think coming down here to start to talk about those services, I think that's really good. I think it looks smart. Again, if you've got some real pictures of your own staff or the client's own staff, I think that would be probably even better, if that was possible. So yeah, I think that would be ideal. Not too sure about these, because they're not really sort of saying a great deal. I think that you could perhaps utilize this section for maybe some case studies or testimonials. That might be really useful, because I think most people know what a cleaner looks like, and kind of the objects that they use. I think it would be good. Or if you have a proper video to go in there, then that might be an opportunity for a testimonial or something like that. That would be really good. So what's lower down? Yep, great. Contact, absolutely. Reach out. You've got a nice, clear call to action there. And again, at the top of your website, don't be afraid to put your reach out with an anchor point, so that it can take you straight down there, straight at the top, because sometimes people have already made that decision to buy from you, and therefore they might just want to reach out. You've got the telephone number in the top right hand corner. Perfect. Let's see if we can either add in maybe an email address, or maybe a button to say let's get down to the contact form. Okay, you've got all of your towns and such like laid out there. That might be useful. I can probably say from an SEO perspective, Itamar, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think in terms of having this as the footer of the site, and you can create different location pages as well, but the only thing you need to keep in mind is depending on the location that you've got that set out. So when you're doing the local SEO, when you're building citations and you're keeping the name, address, postcode, phone number consistent, you've got yourself here. I don't know if this is the actual location, but this is a location in LA. So let's say you are based in LA, then what you can do, I mean, for sure, you can have places maybe surrounding, like within Los Angeles, different types of towns or whatever. But you mean all of this is Texas, right? So that's, quite far away, I think. I'm not actually sure. My geography is not great of the US, but that you want it to at least be at least relevant. But having that in the footer, I'm not sure, because you got to think about it as well from a UX perspective. So, people want to be able to access your services, and usually the footer links are going to be the ones that important navigation wise. You don't want to have too many things in the footer, too many links in there, because when you think of how you're spreading, I suppose, SEO power to different pages on your site through these internal links, they're all going to be relatively equal in terms of how you do that. So the amount of power that you're going to be sending to each one of these is going to be fairly slim, just because you've got so many internal links there in the footer. So keep it to be the most relevant ones for you. I would say, there's nothing wrong with creating different landing pages that are location specific, and you might be able to target more of these long tail keywords. But other than that, I mean, from an SEO perspective, obviously, as long as there's enough content here, in terms of making sure that these images here, or this section, having internal links, because these are different types of services that you're doing. So having different service pages where you can internally link from the homepage to there. And then everything that you were saying, Paul, I think from a design perspective, it looks quite nice. The only thing that I might have a problem is just having to scroll like manually just once to move up and down the site. That's not something I particularly like, just as a personal preference, because I'm used to I'd press the middle of the mouse thing and I'd just scroll all the way down really quickly. But it's just down to personal preference kind of thing. I think it does look different, which is why I think on the whole, I'm more leaning towards it actually looking quite nice. But, apart from that, services, if you're going to have this just going down here, then you definitely need the internal links, like I mentioned, if you're not going to have a kind of drop down. And the same thing with the About Us and gallery and stuff like that. Like you mentioned, Paul, this is where you need some testimonials, you need some real people, because at the moment we don't really know who you look like, what the company's kind of image is. I suppose you want to make it look very personable, like you mentioned. And it does have a dark mode here, which is quite handy. I mean, is that really necessary for a cleaning site? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. It's a nice touch, I suppose. It does make it look more modern. But yeah, I don't really have too much more to say on that, Paul.
No, I think I think I'm just wondering whether this is a theme that you've potentially purchased. I think it's a nice use of it if you have. I don't think you should be afraid of getting rid of sections that either you're not going to be able to fill out or you're unable to fill out. I think the key thing is to make sure that it's segmented nice and clearly throughout the website. I would consider putting in some drop downs. I think Itamar touched on that as well, so that it's clear from the top what the other services are that you provide. And the key thing is to make sure that you've paged out each of your services, because I think it will make it clearer for people to go, okay, I want to learn about this. Sometimes people have kind of got past the point of these super long scrolly pages, and I think people have kind of gone back to clicking and moving around, and they're quite happy to do so. Plus, as well, as you click through, I think from an intent perspective, I think that helps probably the search engines and such like understand what it is that you're looking for on the website as well. So sometimes I think people are too eager to make very, very long pages because they think that that's going to help with the UX. But I actually think shorter pages with very clear intent is probably the way to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely right. And I think, in terms of other things that you might be able to do, you might be able to have a blog in there, add a blog just so you can create content to be targeting different keywords, anything just so that you can pretty much, and this is what I say to clients as well, is your content needs to be different in the sense that it will target people at different stages of the funnel, but it has to be consistent enough for people to want to move down the funnel very easily. So, if you were to create a blog section on this website, it could be about, just more very informational stuff where people who might be interested in specific things about cleaning, or the best type of, product or whatever for cleaning carpets or whatever it may be, just so that you're able to just get more traffic from different sources. And you never know, you can build links to that much easier than you would be potentially building links to a service page about carpet cleaning, right? So you need to think about it like that as well from the get-go. You got to think, well, how are we going to design this site? How are we going to make it SEO friendly? But also, how are we going to be able to come up with ideas of potential linkable assets from this website that will help boost our authority in terms of how strong the domain is in search engines' eyes. But overall, I think the design's pretty nice, and I mean that's what Fateh wanted to hear about the design. So Paul, give that a rating out of 10 because this is your field.
I certainly think it's nice. It's novel. I think as a rating, I'd probably give it a 7 or an 8. Let's say 7.5 to split the difference and be committal. I think the only thing is it might be over contrived. That's the only thing. And I think that, as I said earlier, don't be afraid to remove some of the sections that you can't make work, because I think otherwise you could end up coming across as being too clever by half. But I do like the idea of it. I think it's an interesting concept, and I think it's a great subject matter, and you're kind of lifting up cleaning to as amazing looking as it possibly could be. But yeah, just consider what it is that you're going to end up putting into those sections so that they become meaningful to a visitor.
Absolutely. And Andy was mentioning as well what you mentioned, Paul, about building the personal credibility. So yeah, definitely logos of top clients, case studies, examples of work, and reviews and testimonials. And that that's just part of trust, I suppose. Whenever you've got some kind of service business, especially everything online, people, there's so much competition out there, so many different people. You want to know as a consumer that you can trust the kind of people that you're dealing with here, because if they're going to spend their money, why should they spend it with you? Do you have credit to back it up? And oftentimes that's good when you've got logos of different reviews, testimonials, and things of that nature. But yeah, as Paul was saying as well, good looking site. Not much else that we can kind of say for now. And obviously, you're welcome, Fateh. For always happy to provide you with these insights, and good luck for getting that site live. I'd like
to see it in the end. I'd love to do a revisited. It would be really, really good to see what it looks like in the end when you come to putting it live, because I think that site could be something really, really special, and I think you could be getting up to the 9s if you end up just making a few changes.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. So we've got Stefan here. Good to see you, buddy. So he's suggested a website as well, but before we get on to that, we've got the aspect wall art, which I think I put on the private chat. So aspectwallart.com. So let's see if this site will load up properly for you on Safari, Paul. Let's have a look at that. So I'll just put your screen back up. And let's see. Oh, it seems to be loading up.
Do we match?
I think so. I mean, it's still loading for me. Oh, there we go. Now it's fully loaded. Yeah, go for it, Paul.
Wow, excellent stuff. So what are we having a look here? I like the fact that you've got your testimonials. That's really good. Builds a lot of credibility straight off the bat. I think what would be really, really good, obviously it's something to do with wall art. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, okay, what is it and who's it for? So it might be a good idea to just, as I said on the previous website, and it's something that we all overlook every now and again, is just build up for the sake of doubt, or for the avoidance of doubt, and for the sake of clarity. Why not just put a couple of lines about what it is, what you do, and who is it for? Because then I know that means to say that some people are going to bounce straight off again. I appreciate that, but at least you're then setting out your stall as to what it is that you do. So that would be my first bit of guidance that comes straight off the bat. But other than that, this is a lovely clean site. I love the fact that you've got already your FIFO testimonials up there, and your ratings 4.9 out of 5. That can't be bad. So that means to say that you're doing something right, which is brilliant to see. You've got some really good positive comments on there, and there's 233 reviews. So my goodness me, you are doing really, really well, and I presume that this is quite a well-established website. So that is good. I might move the second part of this section a little bit lower to keep that credibility going. So you've got your 4.9 on FIFO, which is awesome. If it could be split out, I might put the actual testimonials a bit lower down, so that people can get a feel for what it is that you do first before you're saying, look at what our customers are saying. That's just something that I just thought about. I really like the fact that you're putting some of your products up nice and quickly. I'm not too sure if I've already sort of shown my aces with the FIFO thing that it needs another FIFO plug halfway down, if that makes sense. I might think about keeping the offer on its own, because I think the FIFO thing kind of is drawing my eye more than your wondrous offer, because you've got a really nice offer there. Buy 2 and get 10% off sounds great to me. Buy 3 more and get 15% off. Well, those sound like some really nice offers, but I think that the FIFO logo, the FIFO message above it is kind of drawing me a little bit away from that. So if you are going to use that, again, separate it out a little bit. And that's great to see that you show people what you accept as payment. It's nice, again, bit of clarity. I might make those a little bit smaller, and I might put those a little bit lower down the screen as I go, because I've only seen a few of your products. It's a bit like going up to somebody in a pub and asking them to marry you. You're kind of going straight in there a little bit fast, telling your life story and everything like that. And maybe it might just be a little bit too fast to start talking about payment. It's a bit, buy me a drink first kind of thing, rather than sort of getting to the point of getting married. So perhaps, just move those down perhaps a little bit more, make them a little bit smaller. I like the fact that you've got some sections in there. That's great. Personalized wall stickers. So now I understand this is a website about stickers and personalized wall stickers, and that's great. So now I'm starting to understand it, but I think you can probably put something right at the very top that establishes that a lot earlier, so that I can understand that. But I like the design of it. I think the design of it's nice. I like the different sizes of tiles. That's really good. I like the fact that there's a little bit of movement in there, so you know where your mouse is. That's really smart. I like the color palette as well. I think that's quite nice. It's non-offensive. It all seems to work really, really well. I'm not a massive fan of the typeface, but that's just personal to me. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. It's clear, which is what's really, really important in these things. You've got a nice, clear differentiation between the titles and the content, so that's fine. But personally, I'm not a fan of it. It's edging on the side of Comic Sans to my mind. And as most people know, Comic Sans is kind of one of those laughed at typefaces. But but not for any other reason than just snobbery from silly people in the creative industry. But that's just a personal thing. This is perfectly fine. Just remember, though, when it comes to things like sliders, people are not going to sit there and watch this go past like the credits on a film. You know, they're not going to do that. I will not sit here in wonderment clicking or waiting for the next thing to come through. So really think about what it is that you can put in there that are really different to try and either stop people from moving or to catch their attention. So again, that might be a better place to have some special offers on there, perhaps.
Paul,
I've
got a lot of stuff to say about this.
Go for it.
I've got a lot of stuff to say, and I don't want to come across as harsh, but you know, at the end of the day, if you know you take pride in your business and you want to get the best results that you can, so this is why I'm going to say what I'm going to say. You mentioned it yourself when you were saying that the low conversions and poor speed. I mean, you've basically answered the majority of the question there. I think speed is probably the biggest problem that you've got on this site. I've run it through PageSpeed Insights, a mobile score of 16, and look at the potential savings that you can have on that. And the thing that really drew my attention is the fact that I couldn't even get a result for the desktop side because there were too many requests that were going in and it took too long to render. So I don't know if it's a case where you might need to completely just redesign the site, really sort, because you know, speed is massively important. It's not just important just because, oh, you know, page experience is going to be a ranking factor next year where they're looking at things like CLS, you know, the first input delay, things like that. But you're an e-commerce site. And when you think about how e-commerce sites run, people aren't going to have, you know, they're going to get tired of waiting. And if they're having trouble, you know, accessing different products and things like that, you're going to run into a lot of trouble and people just bouncing from the site. And disengagement signals are going to be much lower, which means that Google is going to think, well, people might just be pogo sticking. They might go on the site. It doesn't even load. You know, after they clicked it, within 5 seconds, they go back. And that's going to really impact the amount of potential customers you have on the site. But let's put speed out of the equation and pretend that this website loads really quickly. And now I'm going to, you know, cover some different things. So I think when you start off on an e-commerce site with a bunch of, you know, 5 stars, to me, it looks a bit spammy in the sense that I don't really know what you do yet, but you've already started telling me, you know, what reviews you've had. So the one thing that I really like to see is stuff like this, best-selling wall stickers. That's the kind of stuff you want to have at the top. Give people a sense of, you know, they want to be part of that. When you have things like best-selling, that's very enticing to people because they think, wow, you know, these look really good. I want to have that as well. So I would have that really as the first thing, and then potentially having the reviews underneath just so people can trust it a bit more now that they see the types of products that you offer, if that makes sense. And obviously, you know, I think stuff like this is fine, but it's taking up a lot of the screen. You know, there's a lot of scrolling that needs to be done that could potentially be a bit smaller. But if we, you know, I see you've got obviously more content towards the bottom, and that's fine. And, you know, your footers and all that kind of stuff looks fine. But, you know, when we go, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I don't think anyone will ever get there to the bottom.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, it's a lot of scrolling you've got to do. So, I mean, you know,
the last 2/3, sorry to interrupt, the last 2/3 of the page, the only thing I would say is that I think that the blogs probably could be condensed quite a lot. And that text, really, I would scatter it through the page in sort of meaningful chunks that kind of, you know, that kind of help the visitor. Those were my 2 points. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no problem. I think, yeah, like you're mentioning, this could look a lot more professional, and also this just kind of looks like you've dumped content just at the bottom. So yeah, you can weave it in easily. Just have one of the paragraphs between here and here, after here as well. And so if we actually look into a product page, you know, it's nice that you've got the different color options here. It's nice that you've got different images. This is always good stuff I like to see on e-commerce sites, you know, lots of images. And the colors, how quickly are they changing? Do they change? I don't know. So maybe, you know, if I was to click on this light blue, I would expect to see the shirt being light blue, if you know what I mean. Just give people a better user experience, especially when they're at the, when they're in your product pages, they've got that transactional intent. They're intending to buy. So just make it easier for people to know what they're getting. Also, I feel like there's a lot of just empty white space on the left-hand side. Could you potentially move some of this over to the left just so there's less? Because again, it's just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. That gets tiring. People's fingers get tired, if that makes any sense. But you've got the reviews down here, and I think that's really good. Could you potentially make that look a bit nicer and more cleaner and maybe put it up higher? But actually, no, because you've got the reviews here and they go to, okay, no, that's fine. I think the reviews are fine. You've got related wall stickers. That's good. So related products is fine. I just think, just make the most of the space that you have. Don't leave so much empty white space here on the product pages. But apart from that, I think it looks fine. But like I mentioned, a really big thing is, if somebody's clicking on a shirt collar, they'd expect to see that shirt color change. So see if there's a way for you to implement that. And then we've got this. I just had this open up here. So this is just a kind of category page.
There seems to be a lot of 5 stars. That's the only. I mean, maybe they are all 5 stars, but I think the issue is that it almost becomes a little bit unbelievable. And I'm not saying that it is unbelievable, but you'd expect that. I would almost suggest that perhaps at that point the stars aren't really as appropriate as they are when somebody clicks into the product to go and buy it. I don't know what your thoughts are, Itamar.
Yeah, I think this is where I have to get really skeptical, in the sense that if you've got all of these or most of these products as 5 stars, I just opened up a few different ones to see what the review contents were, to see like, are they tailored to that specific product? Because very quick service wall art was perfect. That's very, very generic. So great service, arrived quickly, well laid out, easy to apply. These all seem quite generic. And as somebody who's very skeptical, and you might have other people who are potential customers are also skeptical, they might think, well, why do all these reviews seem quite generic? And that might, raise some red flags. This stuff, you need more of this stuff. It's very personal. Daughter loves it. There's an emoji there of a heart. More content here in the reviews. I think that's going to have a big influence on people who are reading these reviews, because, at the end of the day, if somebody wants to buy a product, they want to know if it's good or not. And the only way for them to know that is by looking at reviews. So making sure you've got more reviews that are like this, very personable stories. If these are your customers, you can ask them, say, leave a review, but let us know how the person felt when they had this done. How do they feel about this product? That's the kind of stuff that you want from a review, so that people can read into these experiences and think, I want to get an experience like that, and that will, persuade them to actually purchase it. But I just really want to quickly look to see in terms of how you're actually ranking. And this is where I have the issue with the speed. We're going to go back to the speed, because you have, over 900. This is probably a lot more over 900 if it's just Ahrefs telling you this, but so many visitors. And part of me feels like a lot of them just end up leaving the site too soon, just because speed is a massive problem. And we look at this again, and if there are too many requests, taking too long to render on desktop, and I can't even get, I could have gone GT metrics, but I always just like to do this really quickly. But it's a big problem. And I think the site itself isn't bad at all. There's little tweaks here and there, sure, but speed is the #1 thing that you need to fix. Whether you might want to get a completely, redesigned site so that everything loads quickly and you know exactly where things should be, and maybe sort out maybe the fonts or this, that, and the other. But I feel like, if you invest money into doing that, in the long run, you're going to see yourself, feeling a lot better about it, because you put this money in to make sure that customers have a good time on your site, that they stay there instead of bouncing, and you'll definitely see a lot more conversions, as you mentioned from the beginning. You do have a fair bit of links. I just want to see what kind of domains are actually linking to you.
My other question would be is I'd be interested to see what pages are the popular pages, because I wonder if it's just 1 or 2 of those pages that are popular, Itamar, or whether it's a whole host? No, there's
well, it's mainly
clear.
just the home page, isn't it? Getting most of
So
the
are you?
backlinks.
I wonder if is there any paid ads going to this, or is this all organic traffic?
It says no ads found according to this.
So you're managing to generate a lot of interest through the content that you've got. So that's really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that a lot of it is coming down to aesthetics, and I think a lot of it is coming down to speed, as Itamar's already alluded to. For whatever reason as well, it might be a good idea to see if you can drive up your domain authority, because that looks a little bit on the low side. Sort of 11 is kind of could do. I always think about 30 plus. I don't know what your thoughts are, Itamar.
Yeah, I mean, different tools have their own ways of calculating stuff. I think we're looking at Ahrefs in particular. A DR of 11 is quite poor. You could be building a lot more stronger links to your site, but even with the backlink profile you've got now, you're still ranking top 10 for keywords with quite a bit of search volume. I think if you improved your speed, and this is why I'm going to say that I like to tell people what the priorities should be. And for this, it's 100% speed, because if you have a position 2 for a keyword with 800 search volume and, kitchen wall stickers, this may be transactional for some people. They want to buy kitchen wall stickers. And if you've got a lot of traffic coming in, because you're ranking on the 2nd position, which is great, but people can't access the site, it's too slow, they have a bad experience, they're not going to buy from you. And what do you care more about? You care more about people actually converting, getting sales. So if you really want the sales, I'd say right now, focus on speed. You can build links and all that kind of stuff after, like I said before, whether you need a kind of redesign of the site just to make it load quicker and that kind of stuff, I would say absolutely do that, because it's the kind of investment that you make to get your website better in the long run, so that it can perform the best that it can. And it's already ranking pretty well. So that's my biggest kind of concern about the speed, is if it's already ranking well, you should be getting a lot more conversions. And at the end of the day, aesthetics will play a part in it, sure, but your number one kind of villain right now is just the website speed, and in terms of how slowly it loads. And we've got comments from Andy as well. He was saying that he actually really likes the way that the site looks. Maybe adding a help you bar as well, so you've got instructions of how to download these things, how to put them on your kitchen walls and things like that. Also, videos of applications would be really good, especially for certain product pages. FAQs as well. Just, all about the user experience, I think, with e-commerce websites, because you're going to have competitors. And if you can get a better user experience than your competitors with a better looking site that loads quicker, you're going to get the majority of the sales. And that's the most important thing as well. And also, Andy was saying about having a gallery of customer photos, so that you can actually show people real life results of what your customers have done with your products, just to make it more real, give people a better experience and a feeling that, I want to get that for myself. Paul, anything to add to that?
No, I mean, it would also be good. There could be something sort of very, very specific. There might be with regards to the speed. I've had it before where it's one image that's caused the problem, or it's something, something more technical. BigCommerce is a well-regarded platform, so there's not going to be any fundamental reason why it doesn't work. Like some of these platforms a bit bloaty and can cause issues, whatever. I imagine that you've probably been through an optimization process with all the images on your website. If you haven't, then that would be another place to look. But if there's something sort of specific, have a look through and see, by turning stuff on and off, whether or not perhaps, it could be the slider. Maybe it's got some dodgy code in it. It could be any of those sorts of plugins or extensions that might be causing there you go. Andy's already had a little look through, and he's found that it's reCAPTCHA that could be causing the problem. So have a look at how that's being deployed and whether or not that's causing any issue, and have a play about to see if it can be redeployed in a better, more optimized way. Because if it's something as simple as reCAPTCHA, it might be worth revisiting and seeing if there's an alternative.
Absolutely, and thanks, Andy, for pointing that out as well.
Very good. Excellent stuff. Look at that. What rounded help. Andy's found the problem. Itamar's talked about the speed and how important it is. I've given you a critique on what it looks like. My goodness me, I reckon the next time we look, you're going to have about double the amount of people coming to your website in the next month.
Yeah, honestly, if you can sort these stuff out, I've got no doubts that you can get that #1 organic spot for a bunch of keywords. If you're ranking #2 for some big time keywords right now with the current, the site speed like that, and in terms of, because Google do take a look at engagement, like 100%. They will be looking how people interact with websites. They know absolutely everything. If you can improve that experience, get better engagement on your site, you're going to have no problems getting the most traffic and maximizing your conversions. So obviously, we're glad that you submitted the site. Glad that you found the advice useful. And obviously, thanks to Andy, who chipped in as well with his insights there. And we've got BB. Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
That's okay. That's fine.
BB dropping by quickly. I know BB's got a bunch of stuff to deal with today. So hi, BB. Good to see you. And Arthur was mentioning as well FAQ and schema markup. Absolutely, that's schema. You could implement quite a bit of different types of schema in e-commerce sites, so that's something that you can do as well. BB's still here with a nice little heart emoji. We love you, BB.
I think that some of the positives from that particular website, you're getting visitors, and they must be like diehard visitors, because they're putting up with some sort of clunky website stuff going on. So that's really good. You know what? But a lot of issues come from when businesses don't understand what it is that they need to do to even get visitors. And this is the whole thing, and it's something that I go on and on about on my own channel and on my own stuff, is that having a website is only part of the problem. It only answers half of the conundrum. You've got to have a war chest. You've got to have a fighting fund to actually driving people to your website. And it might start off where it's paid traffic, and it might just be, maybe PPC campaigns or Facebook ads or whatever it is, and that's okay. That's great. But to establish continuity and regular amounts of visitors, you normally end up having to optimize your site for the search engines, because the search engines don't just go for the specific search phrases that you are optimizing for. There is a whole array of alsos that end up being dragged up, and I think it's really important that everyone's long-term goal should be to look at search engine optimization, but also how to do that. And I think it's really, really important, and something that most business owners and most businesses overlook so many times, and then they complain, I've got this website, it ain't doing anything, and you say, okay, basically what you've got at the moment is a glorified magazine. It's a glorified brochure, and we all know, people, those of us who have been in business for a while, and as you go around and see things, how many times have we seen at people's businesses that they've got a massive pile of brochures sitting behind them, not doing anything? There are I always have a good look round to when I go into a business to see if I can place spot the brochure, because if I can place spot the brochure, it means to say that their drive to actually get those eyeballs onto their brochure is not there, which is quite indicative of how they probably view their website. Because if they can't see that actually having those brochures behind them isn't earning them any money, then they're probably not gonna be that interested in trying to get more visitors to their website.
Do you know what? It's funny that you mentioned that as well, Paul. And Simon's just put a message up as well. Good to see you here, Simon. So he was mentioning as well, a few barriers to SEO potentially with BigCommerce, but also there was a Samrush chat session yesterday where they were talking about content marketing, and there was one question in particular, and I think Simon, you were answering that question about, should you worry about SEO before or like during or after kind of writing your content? And Simon and I were basically saying, you've got to do it from the beginning. Like, you saved yourself so much time, so much hassle, so much money as well, in terms of actually. So with any, and I said, any marketing activity, SEO has to be considered at every step, because at the end of the day, you need to make sure that people can find you online. It's plain and simple, and it gets involved in so many of these different activities.
Yeah, it's the key, because having the best kept secret or having a shop on Mars is not going to get you any business whatsoever. And this is how I liken it. It's like having a shop with no windows. You've got the whole world at your feet, and yet the insistence of not doing anything to promote your website other than build it and they will come. And we all know what happens in a situation like that. It never happens. It never happens. And you will get a slow and steady trickle, if you're lucky, of people turning up. The real important thing is that you have a plan. And it might be that you're going to write bucket loads of content, and you might start, working through and getting more and more and more and more and more blog items. And that might be the way that you end up funneling through interested parties. It might be you're going to do SEO. It might be that you're going to do pay-per-click. Any of those things are good ideas, as long as you have a plan. What it can't be is that you pay to have a website done and that you expect miracles to happen without you doing anything, because
exactly,
as we found before, there is no such thing as a passive income. Even the people who have passive income aren't really passive. They say that they are, but they forget the bit where they spent hours and hours and days and days and days making the content, optimizing the site, or paying for those services. So it comes either by money or it comes by time, and you have to pick.
Absolutely. Yeah, really, really good points there, Paul. I think we've only got about just under 15 minutes left. So Stefan was obviously waiting patiently with his site onschools.co. I've put it in the private chat as well, so we can probably just finish the session off looking at Stefan's site. And obviously, everyone, if we don't get a chance to go through your site, I'll be here next week with a new special guest, and we can go through that then if we don't get time in today's session. But let's have a look at onschools.co.
Here we go. So the first thing that I would say, I'm just gonna refresh it, because it did take a little while for that video to start running. So I'd perhaps look and see how you could optimize that just ever so slightly quicker, because the good thing is some text came up, so at least it keeps people's interest. But if I counted 4 in my head, I'm not too sure whether or not that would load. So you might just want to look at just double down and just optimize that just a little bit better. And also just keep in mind as well is that some of the video is light and some of it's dark. So sometimes it's hard to read the message. But the fact of the matter is you've got the message, which is brilliant. We've spoken about, messages and to set the scene. So the great news is that you've done that. I also like the fact that you've got obviously an interchangeable top masthead banner up there, which is really, really good. So you've got an overriding call to action up there. I hope that is the call to action that you want people to take, because it certainly draws my eye. So that's really, really good. I guess my only thing that I would say on that is make sure that you're changing that regularly enough to ensure that you're still targeting people to the place that you want them to take action to. So that's really good. Nice clear font typeface. So I like that. Getting a nice clear call to action in there, that's really nice. It's a nice, I'm using the word nice too many times. I hate it when I get into that situation. I've used the word nice too many times, but it's good to see that there's a clear, uncluttered kind of look about the website. So that's good to see. We've got quite a few calls to action. That might start to get a little bit confusing, because 1 minute we're talking about find out more, but get the book, apply now. If I'm reading from left to right, I might have started to lose focus as it goes to the right. It may be better to separate them out and have a section per call to action, maybe. Moving down, this looks more like a blog section, which looks okay. And then we've got another set of call to action underneath. I like the graphics. I like the design. I like the funky colors. That works well with a very clear background, so that's good. And then we've got a tell me, and then we've got a tell me more at the bottom with a video. Good to see some video on there. That's excellent. This is quite a long page, so there is every possibility that people might not get to the bottom of the page because this is quite long. I'm only halfway through the page at the moment. It may be worthwhile either cutting back on some of the calls to action or making those calls to action shorter. I'm just having a quick look through. There is so much information on here. I mean, one thing I would say is you're not going to be short of information, but I don't know if it might just be a little bit too much now. And I'm starting to think to myself, perhaps it would be better to separate this out a little bit more. You've got some testimonials in there. That's great. A lovely big slideshow. I think by the time people have got down here, they may have lost the will to live. It may be a situation that, as I said to you before, sliders are great, but am I really going to stop here when I've got another area to scroll down to? I don't know. I don't know if I would. And also, I don't know what the context of this is. So I think there should be some explanation as to what it is I'm actually even looking at, because it's nice. It's nice to have some personalized images, as we said before, but I'd like to know what the context is, if that helps you. I think that by this point, I think this might be a bit of a waste of time, because I think people won't fill that in. I'd be interested to know if they do, because it's so far down that I think people would have moved on, because you're giving them so many calls to action. In all likelihood, if they haven't found what they need by the time they get down here, they're probably on the wrong website, I would imagine. I think that I would, if you really want people to sign up, I think I would move that significantly higher up, if not into your menu section. And then we've still got more calls to action. My feelings on this are that there are lots and lots and lots of calls to action. I feel that you perhaps might need to assay it down to perhaps 3 to 5 calls to action, because I think that it might just become an information overload situation.
100%.
That's my thoughts.
100%. And I'm just going to share my screen as well, because it's also funny that you mentioned the 5 call to actions, because there's a 6th one. And when I was scrolling just a bit past the home page, I've got this pop up here. And this is something that I'm not a big fan of, especially if I've just entered a site for the very first time. Like, why would I subscribe to a newsletter if it's my first time here?
Yeah.
So, in terms of when you're deciding when to get these newsletter pop-ups up there, it should be minimum the 2nd session when somebody's been there for the 2nd session, and then they've got a better idea.
Or am I lost?
Where? What's happened, Paul? Is Paul still here? Paul, I hope you're still here. Maybe his audio is cut off, but yeah. So as Paul, he's still here. Okay, there might be some technical issues on Paul's side, but just to show what he was saying about the CTAs and having too many CTAs. It can get overwhelming for people. You don't want to give them a CTA at the end of every single section of your site, because it just feels like a bit too much. And there's a lot of content on this website and on these pages specifically. Like, look at these sliders, how many different photos you've got. I mean, this is just too much information, I feel like. And, in terms of, you've got a blog section here that's called Journal. and you've got a bunch of different stuff here about different weeks. You know, have you been optimizing these posts to try and target certain keywords? Maybe, maybe not. That's something that you always should consider. We've also had, I've also just taken a quick look in terms of, you know, how much traffic this site's getting. So it's getting a bit of traffic. You've obviously got a decent amount of links. Your DR's okay, actually, 43 isn't too bad. You rank for quite a few keywords, so just almost 800 different keywords. But it's also thinking about what the intent is of the people and how you expect them to find your website. So, you know, that's always something that you should have or consider at least. How are people going to get to the site and why? What the reasons are. Just in terms of the recent amount, like links that you're getting to the site, you seem to be getting, you know, a couple of links every single day. Are these domains actually good? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, I don't know these sites. I haven't taken a look at them specifically, but I think something like this seems pretty good. So in terms of your link building, it appears to be going all right. Obviously, keep making sure that the backlink profile is diverse. That, you know, you're trying to target some key terms, that you've done your keyword research, this, that, and the other. But you know, overall, I think the site just could do with a bit more content. And obviously, Paul's he's gone backstage. I'm going to add him now, Paul. I just saw you back on. You okay?
Sorry, I don't know what happened there.
Well, Paul's back. The technical issues.
It's the wilds of Suffolk here. Yeah, there's probably a farmer and a tractor have just run over my internet cable or something. Damn you.
Yeah, well, but, it happens. No. We're fine. Arthur was asking as well if they considered using Hotjar or Crazy Egg to help build the homepage. You know, stuff like Hotjar to get heat maps and take a look at how people behave on the site's really good, because you can see really, you know, what proportion of users actually get down to the bottom of the page to see those sliders and those images. So that's important. Simon mentioning strong brand but no knowledge graph. So that's something that you can aim for as well. That's a good point. Andy was mentioning simplify, as you were saying, Paul. So 3 or 4 content clusters and exaggerate these. And this is something that I mentioned before as well about the, you know, you're being overloaded by content. Like there's so much content, so many calls to action. You might want to simplify it, help people keep sane, I suppose, when they're on your site as well. Simon asking about the quizzing tonight. I should try and make there as well. Maybe BB should be there as well. That'll be cool. If you don't know what we're talking about, just send me a message afterwards or ask Simon and BB. And Andy was saying, yeah, go ahead.
I agree with Andy. Yeah, that's a lot of content, and that's probably what killed my internet connection. I won't blame the farmers. I'll blame the 18 meg homepage. But I think he's absolutely right. I think there's so much going on that I feel that people would get analysis paralysis and just not know what it is to do next. I totally agree with a Hotjar or a Lucky Orange or anything like that to see whether or not people are actually even getting, I would suggest, even a third of the way through that homepage, and I would split it out.
Yeah. 100%. I think, and you've always got to consider other things like user experience and stuff when you're talking about, you know, how do we best optimize the website? So it's not just about how it performs in search. It's about how people behave, and do people have an easy time navigating to the pages you want them to navigate to? Because that's something we mentioned as well for the e-commerce site just before. You know, how do we improve that user journey for people to go down the funnel and get them to convert and become a lead or a client, whatever it may be? And that's something really important. But is there any last things to add about that site, Paul? Any last bits?
No, I like the style of it. I think the typeface is nice. I think it's easy to read, easy to understand. I think that the intent is great. I just feel, you know, I think you could get more engagement. I'd be really interested to know whether or not anybody at all is signing up for any of those newsletters. You know, I've put a whole bunch of stuff on this before, and Itamar's even reviewed my my website before, and I ended up taking it off because actually it was causing a technical problem more over than anything else. And actually, if you notice, I didn't even get that pop up. So if you're relying on that to do something important and business critical for your business, actually think about the browsers as well, because there's such a big difference between how some browsers work and how others don't. Also, pop-ups can be turned off, which means to say that then it becomes totally irrelevant, because they might not even show. So build it in if you want to have that functionality. Build it into your website. Absolutely. I think pop-ups are kind of coming to the point where they've had their day. I think people have got wise to them, and they're not kind of going, oh, that's amazing. I think most people are now thinking to themselves, oh, that's tedious.
Yeah.
So perhaps think of a smarter, more interesting way to get that request for information in front of the eyes of a visitor. I'd be interested. Did you run the metrics? What was the visitors like? Because I had a complete cutout at that point.
Oh, I'm just looking. So the visits on, they get about nearly about 400 according to traffic. So it's not bad, but obviously, there's always things that you can improve, and that's why we're here. And we've got obviously some final comments as well. So lazy loading as well for the images, that can help you improve the speed. So that's a good point there. Cheers, Simon, for that. Also considering using WebP images to optimize them, especially for the Chrome browser, as Arthur was saying as well. So with Safari, you might want to use JPEG, so conditions for different browsers, that could also be a good thing that you can do. And obviously, Stefan, thanks for submitting the website there and for helping out. And I think that about wraps it up for this session, because we've gone past the hour. But thanks so much for everyone who tuned in. Thank you, Paul, especially for your insights. It was really great to have you on here. Oh, wait, is that the alarm?
The farmers phoning up now. They need to open up the road. We've got to get the tractor barricade sorted out.
All right, no worries, Paul. I'll cut you off there then, if that's the case. Cheers, Paul. Okay, I'll catch you next time. But yeah, thanks guys for watching this week's episode of the Live Audits. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, rating, and subscribe if you haven't already. Next week we've got a special guest, and I'm going to reveal the name now because why not? Next week we're going to have BB Raven, the wonderful BB, on the show as well. She's going to have a lot to say. I expect it to be quite a crazy session, so make sure that you guys turn up for next week at the same time, Thursdays at 1:30 p.m. UK time. So thanks a lot, everybody who tuned in, and we'll catch you next week. Take care.